Good afternoon, everyone. Carasoft Technology would like to welcome you to our ServiceNow Federal Tech Talk, Expand Beyond IT, and Accelerate the Mission by learning how to fully automate management and service of enterprise assets. At this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to our first presenter. Chris, the floor is all yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Heather. As Heather said, I'm Chris Russick, and I'd like to welcome you to our June Tech Talk, where we're going to discuss the benefits of joining ServiceNow's enterprise asset management product with the facilities management product, all built on the ServiceNow platform. So back in April, Matt Pickering delivered a tech talk about using enterprise asset management to manage inventory, assets, the process surrounding their management. And because ServiceNow at our core, we're a workflow company, we're going to extend that use case with EAM and take it one step further. We're going to walk you through a use case that is arguably one of the more complex use cases, as we're going to show you how we can model out a Sikorsky UH-60 helicopter. Then we're going to talk about how we can help you with maintaining parts, predictive maintenance schedules, and other metrics that keep the helicopter in flight, right? We're going to talk about scheduling the personnel and keeping the helicopter on a service schedule, a known service schedule. We know that a helicopter down for service is not helping our citizens or our warfighters downrange. So that's why we wanted to start with the hardest thing first. So I'm joined by three others on today's call. First is my peer on the FSM side, Freddie Hansen, along with solutions consultant Brian Philbin. Finally, my longtime friend and asset management solutions consultant, Tom Boudreau. Thank you all for joining me. One point of note, if you have any questions related to the content today, please feel free to post those comments or questions in the chat window. Our team's going to make every effort to answer them as we go. Freddie, off to you.
All right, so thank you, Chris, for the introduction there. Very excited to be here and have the opportunity to speak to such a large audience. Safe harbor notice, just have to put it here in the beginning of the presentation, but let's get started. So why are we here today? What's important to your organization? A big part, and more correctly, a statistically significant part of what is important, I guarantee, are your assets or your facilities. Tangible physical assets are the foundation of any government office or mission. Whether it's the defense space and you're in charge of ensuring airplanes or warfighters are operational, or you're in the Department of Energy researching the cutting edge ideas or thoughts around climate studies, assets and the maintenance of those assets play a key part in how you accomplish your mission. Take NASA's mission statement, for example, and I honestly really can't think of a cooler one in the government today. I am a little bit of a nerd. I'm a Star Trek fan, so this one does resonate with me. But according to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's website, the mission statement reads, NASA explores the unknown in air and space and innovates for the benefit of humanity and inspires the world through discovery. I mean, wow, that's really one that resonates with me, and it's a very, extremely far-reaching. And how do you think they accomplish this? Well, I'll tell you, NASA has some of the most complex assets in the world today and ensures that they are well-maintained, functional, and performing to the capacity that only the US government can guarantee. We're at the cutting edge and the forefront of the global field and research. McKinsey estimates that organizations across the globe currently have around $88 trillion, 88 trillion with a T, worth of machinery, equipment, and business assets on the books globally. Organizations are overseeing a tremendous amount of physical items, from medical carts, lab equipment, in the healthcare and life science space, mobile command centers for tactical gear. Think about the defense and law enforcement areas, to refrigeration cases and merchandising displays, retail, and science and facility centers, the equipment that they use to carry that out, satellites, building systems, equipments, conveyor belts, forklifts, and even just the facilities and escalators for transportation within any sector. When it comes to managing these enterprise assets, organizations are continually looking to control capital investments and, of course, reduce their operating expenses on asset-related activities while trusting that the assets are going to be there when they're needed.
So our goal, plain and simple, is to help our federal customers keep planes in the air, boats at sea, and medical equipment in front of their patients. We want to help you become proactive with just-in-time delivery of assets and maintenance services. The last time we spoke, it was about the management of those assets, like I said, and the costs associated. This time, we're going to go focus on proactivity. Let's answer the questions about predictive maintenance and ensuring assets are readily available when called upon. And in order to ensure availability of these assets, we're combining ServiceNow's enterprise asset management solution with our facilities services management products to improve enterprise-wide visibility to all aspects of the maintenance and reporting related to asset management. Whether it floats, flies, or rolls, we want to provide you with the industry's leading solutions for predictive maintenance and execution. Not only do we want to help you maintain your assets properly, we want those in the process prepared so that they have the inventory and tools needed to fix or repair your fleet the first time, every time. So our challenge to you is to think about how ServiceNow workflows can make a proactive maintenance solution out of your assets and make that all streamlined. You're going to see a demo today, like I said, where our team has modeled out some of the components of a UH-60 helicopter. Knowing what is needed to be maintained before it breaks helps keep our service members safe and keeps the helicopter in the air. These use cases extend well beyond the predictive maintenance vertical. But think about the ordering of parts. Think about the inventorying process, even the process of recycling used parts. Because our workflows can be configured to your needs, we can accommodate everything from the procurement to the disposal process and really everything in between. A lot of the use cases you can see here on the screen.
So let's talk about outcomes. What's relevant to your organization, and as determined through working with our customers and industry counterparts, it really boils down into simple aspects that, if left unaddressed, will force disruption, and it's really hard to change and recover from that disruption. Employee empowerment, different from private industry. Look at both DoD and civilian agencies. We have people in place to carry out the mission of any organization that's signed up to do so on the behalf of all American citizens. It's our duty to ensure that they're able to carry out the tasks at hand effectively and, more importantly, efficiently. Time savings is paramount. Every second, minute, hour, day, week, and hopefully we really don't get to this point, but month an asset is not operational. It's costing tax dollars and citizen dissatisfaction. Let's talk about safety. There are entire government installations in place to ensure everything is in compliance. OSHA standards need to be met, maintained, and kept compliant, and more importantly, tracked for audit purposes. Ask yourself, what is the current lift of your system in place to be able to understand compliance data? Is it even automated? You may have a system in place that's able to dispatch work and maintenance logs, but can they be generated in an efficient and timely manner? How many people does it take to be able to pull all of this data together? Later in our demonstration, you'll see just how easy it is to recall dashboards and keep real-time data on all of your technicians, facilities managers, fleet managers, asset maintenance logs, all the data that encompasses this workflow. And you can do so in real time at the touch of a button with the ease of the ServiceNow platform and our user interface. All of the outcomes allow and enable our government customers to become responsible stewards of the assets and facilities within their mission scope.
So I'm going to pause for one moment. There's a question: what solutions are being used for enterprise asset management? That's in the chat window I see. The enterprise asset management solution is its own solution. It is part of the our TX vertical, we call it, technology transformation vertical, but it is its own product. It is in this presentation today, we are showcasing enterprise asset management alongside FSM. So EAM and FSM better together. But thank you for that question. So moving on, beyond the benefits that Freddie mentioned, the marriage of EAM and FSM products allows for rapid maturity and the optimization of your processes. So let's summarize the four main benefits that you see on the screen. First, visibility into all of your assets so that you can stop unknown asset sprawl, the ability to solve chargeback issues. That's how we're going to help you drive transparency. Second, the linking of financial and operational activities. We're going to be able to help you make use of those assets already owned and provide a lot of inventory oversight. From an operational perspective, we help the teams managing assets become more efficient. Third, simply, to simplify and remove the duplication while gaining better visibility into to minimize your risk exposure. Every change to an asset record, every action, every moment is automatically written to an audit trail. This documentation can be used to support regulatory compliance and find assets in a hurry. Our goal is to help you identify also who's responsible for that transfer so that you have end-to-end auditability. Finally, my favorite. We see in organizations more often than not, they're automating the maintenance tasks at scale, all while the true asset management workflows are managed in a series of emails, spreadsheets, point solutions, and they've got swivel chair workarounds, going back and forth between those systems and financial systems. It's time to optimize that entire workflow end to end. So gone are the days of spreadsheets and taskers.
So a lot of complex ideas, and of course, we're going to be going into the demo a little bit later and to showcase how we can solve this with our technology. But simply put, ServiceNow is solving for the asset management and maintenance activities in the public sector today by getting the right people with the right tools and skills and assets to the right place to fix things the first time. And it's as simple as that. As I said, we are going to get a little bit more in depth and complex, a little bit more into the webinar as we get into the technology portion and the demo. But I want everybody in attendance to not overcomplicate the message here. We are solving complex issues with simple concepts, driving outcomes through the utilization of low code to no code workflow automation. A great example of where we're doing this today is ARMA, or the Army Maintenance Application. ARMA is a solution that enables servicemen and women to submit maintenance requests for any garrisons or barracks in a base across the country. The challenge that U.S. Army was facing was manual time to resolution, too much complexity in submitting a request, and most importantly, the process for submitting the request was highly manual and resource intensive. This led to service requests not being addressed in a timely fashion, sometimes taking weeks or months, or just not getting completed and the work not getting done at all. Imagine you've enlisted and you've given your life to protect the country, or you've given years of your life to protect the country, but you can't request your AC to get fixed, or the wiring in your house goes dead and the room is dark for weeks with no way to request an electrician. To solve for this, we created an online portal for housing maintenance requests using ServiceNow's platform. We simplified the categorization of the requests with the ability to even upload photos of any issue that's going on, and simplified the entire end-to-end process while cutting what used to take weeks or months to fulfill into days and even sometimes hours. Now, I'm proud to say that we scaled the solution and we were able to hit our millionth case in December of last year. This was at, this is about 2 years into the investment, and this was at a rate of around 80 to 90,000 cases per month. We're anticipating, and again, proud to say that we're going to be at our 2 millionth case by year end. Now, this is just an example of the power of ServiceNow's asset maintenance, with the garrison being the asset and the request of the work order being something that's broken and that you need to fix. We're going to get into the UA-60 helicopter example. But I just want you to, put it in your own organization, your own mission. And really, it's just revolved around maximizing the uptime of all assets and facilities to be functional when we need them.
Thanks, Freddie. So let's get into what a traditional end-to-end preventative maintenance workflow could look like. Like I said earlier, we're going to start with that UH-60, making sure that our fleet of UH-60 stays in the air and properly maintained. Before I welcome Tom Boudreau and Brian Philbin, our solution consultants, who will walk us through the traditional demo, here's what a workflow could look like. So in this workflow, you can see where asset managers are managing inventory and ensuring parts are at the ready. This is up in the left-hand corner in the green circles. when planned maintenance is scheduled, work orders are created for the technicians to review, scheduled, and then they ensure they have the parts necessary to fix or maintain the aircraft the first time. This is detailed in the yellow section. Finally, the back half of the workflow allows asset managers to come back and replace old used parts and make sure that the costs are accounted for while integrating with your ERP system. Brian, Tom, I'd like to turn over the show to you. Let's see those fantastic capabilities.
Right. Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
So welcome, everyone. Again, I'm Tom Boudreau. I'm here kind of as your asset management and enterprise asset management subject matter expert today. I'm going to walk you through kind of what that workflow looks like here, where we're working to manage the parts and the warranty and the maintenance contracts and establish some of those inventory concepts that are so crucial so that you know what you have, right? We want to be able to buy things in the right amount and not buy like we're stocking for a party where we can't possibly run out of anything, right? So we want to make sure we have all the right levels of things. So of course I have to start with the dashboard. It's actually a legal requirement. And the dashboard shows you what you have, what state it's in, and how much it's worth, all the key stuff, right? All of these are drillable. So you can come into your transportation area, hit that, and you will see all of those items, right? It'll drill you right down into the ones that you have. I have my engines right here, right at the top. So that shows you right away. You can kind of dive into stuff, understand what you have. Additionally, you can take a look at, where those life cycles are for the models that you're utilizing. Again, these would be the model of the helicopter, for example, the model of anything that's there, as well as stuff that's eligible for refresh based on your prescribed maintenance strategies for those overall, right? So if you're going to replace something that's out in the field every 5 years, that is automated as well as a part of a workflow, and these assets are eligible for refresh. And there's a bulk way to establish that refresh and do all of the tracking for that, right? Which is key for automating this life cycle and servicing, right? Now, I've taken the liberty of building out a Sikorsky helicopter. Now, this has over 100 kind of high level parts. I have built 10 of them, 9 of them, right? So just to kind of give you a flavor of what's possible, right? Now, in this helicopter here, we keep track of all the stuff that would be important. The asset tags for it, right? The tail number in this case, right? Where it is, if it's in stock, what location it is, such as the Navy depot, who's managing it, when we installed it, when the warranty expires, all the stuff that you would want, as well as specific things like how many hours does it run, the run hours, last reading, and who did that reading, right? So we have traceability of all of that, right? Where we bought it, what it cost, where was the cost center for that, right? $2 million, that sounds right. The PO number, what the depreciation is, all the important stuff, right? And this is just at the top level. This allows you to manage it overall, but also see what is a part of it, right? So these individual components show you, okay, we have different rotor blades, we have some consumable missiles, we have some guns, we have some General Electric turboshaft engines that make it up, right? There's 2 of those on one on each side. We have 4 rotor blades, right? Those come together to build this asset. And these are the sorts of things that are swappable as you need to replace and life cycle manage those, right? These are the things that will have preventative maintenance, for example, right? So you can see these sorts of things. You can see what's consumable. The consumable items are the ones where we're not tracking an individual serial number asset tag, but we want to know a quantity in a place, right? So that allows you to work with both levels of details as you need and mix those together. This also allows you to build a complex asset where it has these various component parts. It works for carts where there's scanners and various tool sets on it. It works for vehicles or helicopters. We have a lot of componentry and kits inside that you need to store, stock, and maintain. All of that is there, and you can utilize the swap button to swap new things in and out. It will take you all the things that you have. You can look up substitute. You can find what depot you're going to look them up out of, and then which replacement assets you want to do, and then swap it out. I'm not going to do that today, but you get the idea. So that's there. We have the concept of a model, this is the model where you can build that thing yourself, right? And then put it into production to say, this is what we are working with, and this is what we're establishing and running. This lets you keep track of all the details around that, where you're going to source it, and then also let you see how many of those assets you have deployed out in the field. So this is the one we were just looking at. Now, what I want to do is look into and showcase some of the maintenance of this. Now, we have an area for that called work management that covers some of those maintenance plans, right? As well as the work orders and the tasks and the templates that are associated with all of that, right? Now, inside the maintenance plans area, you can see I have a variety of maintenance plans here. I'm going to filter to look for ones that are relevant to the UH60 here, right? And you can see I have engine maintenance, very important, as well as kind of the O-level rotor blade inspection that is done every 20 flight hours, right? So I started this as a shell. This would automatically apply, so you don't need to manually apply this to every Sikorsky helicopter of this model that you have, right? So this way, your rules only need to get set up once, and then you can kind of set it and forget it, which is great. So this maintenance plan has a schedule, right? You can see I documented in text here, but what it allows you to bring in is to open the schedule. And then you can then very easily create a new schedule, right? And you can see we have a variety of ways to do that, right? So there's durations, meters, conditions, or even scripts to do that, right? So if you were to choose something like a duration, you're going to work with a time. If you choose metering, you can choose which field you'd like to meter off of on the asset so that that is there. So if we want to do the run hours, so for every 20 hours of run time, we want this to run. So I'd go ahead and put 20 in here. Go ahead. You can also run this on demand, but then I would save this, and that would create the maintenance plan, which is going to automatically start on the prescribed maintenance schedule, kicking off those work orders, right? Now, with that, I'd like to transition to Brian, who's going to take you through the persona of the folks that are dealing with those work orders as they kind of appear.
Thanks, Tom. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can.
Great. So I'm going to walk you through the next step, which is once the asset's out in the field and you need to do maintenance or it breaks and you need to do service on it, what happens? So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the view of maybe a service supervisor, work assigner, scheduler, dispatcher, whatever that role is. On the left-hand side, we have a series of tasks that have not yet been assigned. We have a list of the names of the folks that are assigned work within the system. And you'll notice these are individuals. As I scroll down, we can see that we also have the ability to support things like crews or teams. So if you have a team that you need to use to go out and do a specific type of work or inspection, we can assign work at a team or crew level. And then lastly, the ability to assign work to outside contractors. So if you've got work that needs to be sent to a specific contractor for a specific task or activity on an aircraft, you can go ahead and manage that in that single pane of glass. And then we have the ability to monitor things like this gentleman's on PTO, this person's on jury duty. The system will not automatically assign work to them. And then lastly, we have the ability to look at either a day view, or I can go out to a work day, the week, 4-week view. And when I start to look at these views, I can see that I have multi-day tasks that are associated with different people. I can start forecasting and planning further out. And all of these jobs here on the Gantt chart have been assigned automatically by the assignment engine based on skills, geography, the parts required, et cetera. The jobs on the left have been left over. So these are either jobs you didn't want automatically scheduled, or they fell out because there wasn't capacity to do them within the required time frame. And then lastly, we have the ability to look at the SLA. For each task, activity, et cetera, there is a service level agreement of when we want this to be completed. And this countdown timer currently is set for 5 days. I have 4 days, 22 hours left before it expires. It will go from green to yellow to red based on your business rules. And as I start to progress through, we can also trigger notifications and alerts to people to start escalating these jobs. So you don't end up with a whole bunch of jobs that are ready to expire on the day that they're all going to expire and not enough capacity to actually do the work. The last thing I'll mention is we have an assignment engine that will automatically assign work. So all of these jobs in the queue have been automatically assigned. I can drag and drop one of these jobs onto somebody's schedule. I can go in here and say auto assign, or my favorite feature is that I can't remember, I'm old, I can't remember everybody's skill level. I could just go in here and highlight someone's schedule. And then the system will say, based on our task recommendation policies, whatever your policies are that you set in your recommendation policy, these are the best ranked jobs to give to this particular individual for this work. So I no longer have to remember what everyone's skills are, where they're located, what kind of work they can do. The system can kind of nudge me in the right direction. We also have the ability to look at geospatial representation. So we've got the calendar view. We also have the ability to look at the geography of where these people are, where the jobs are, where the assets are, where the service depot is, warehouses, etc. So now that we've seen kind of a supervisor's view, this little red line here, I'm on Pacific time, it is just marching forward. This is the current time of day, so I can keep track of how are people doing, what work is progressing, etc. So in that vein, let's go ahead and take a look. We'll leave this up in the background. Let's take a look at what the user experience would be for a technician doing work. So we have a rotor inspection that's been assigned to this technician. His name is Teddy Taylor. Teddy is provided with an alert to let him know that that inspection has been scheduled. It appears down on his device. And it also includes critical information about where he needs to go, what he needs to do, any parts, any knowledge content. So all I have to do, sorry, this is my Android phone connected to my laptop, so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and click on this cell for the rotor inspection, and then it's going to take me to a screen with additional detail. These details are completely configurable as to what makes sense for you to present to the person doing the work. The workflow is also completely configurable. And when I say configurable, it's not somebody has to write code. It is a drag and drop or a no code environment to be able to say things like, we don't allow our technicians to reject work. Once it's assigned, we don't want them to be able to accept or reject it. To make this go away as simple as just hitting a slider and turning it off. So a lot of this can be delegated down to the business community rather than the IT developers having to do this work. But it also gives IT the ability to manage that cadence of who does what and how often it gets done. So in my case, I have an accept process. I'm going to go ahead and accept. Now, if I hit reject, there's a list of reject reasons that I have to indicate why I'm rejecting that work so that I can collect information. And then based on that reject reason, the system can reassign it to someone else, or it could bubble up and become an exception that my service supervisor, Lisa Ray back here, would actually deal with manually. So the next logical thing for me to do is to start travel. So I'm going to leave the depot to go out to the flight line. I want to be able to track how much time we're spending going from place to place as we're actually working on things. Couple of different things have happened. I've started a travel timer so I can automatically capture how much travel time. We've moved this job to the current time of day to indicate that my travel just started. We've also changed the color. So my supervisor gets a real view within 60 seconds of these changes of what's happening out in the field so they can kind of monitor what's going on. And then lastly, there's some special handling notes. So when I get there, there's some arrival instructions. I want to go ahead and look at them. Please check in when you arrive. So I need to go find Julie, who may be the flight line manager, or whoever it is that I'm supposed to contact, and have a chat with her before I go out and just start working. We can also send a notification to Julie that includes an Uber-like experience to say, hey, Teddy's on his way. He'll be there in 10 minutes. We have customers in government space. Some of them use it. Many of them turn it off for security reasons. So again, completely configurable as to how it works. So the next thing I'm going to do, get to where I'm going and go ahead and hit start work. Now start work's going to do a couple of things. It's going to stop the travel timer. It's going to start a labor timer. It's going to indicate that I'm now moved to this nice little, there's my sliver of 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes of travel time. And now I'm ready to go out and do the work. So in this case, it's a rotor inspection. I'm going to go ahead and complete a questionnaire. So I have a couple of different questionnaires that are here. These are listed as optional. They could be mandatory. You can insert these at any point in the workflow. So the first thing I want to do is there any visible damage or where? If the answer is yes, we're going to be asked, what is the problem and where do I need to move for the next thing? So in this case, I'm going to have to replace a rotor. And then verify the following. There's no visible damage. Well, we've already said that there is, but there is no signs of excess wear, but I'm going to replace it anyway. And then is the aircraft airworthy? Currently, no. So we're going to say no. I could spawn a whole series of additional questions. This is a very simple questionnaire that I created, but this supports branching logic, so I have the ability to make it as complex as I want. And then is the aircraft mission ready? No, it's not, because the rotor needs to be inspected or replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and include that. It's going to be associated to this work. It will also be associated to this asset lifecycle. So we'll see that this questionnaire was completed, who completed it, what the answers were. And now I've got to go back and do some remediation. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the rotor. So play along with me. I'm going to go ahead and find a part that I replaced. In this case, it's going to be a rotor, and it's in here somewhere. Just need to find it. I could have scanned a barcode for this part, which would have made it a lot easier for me, but I don't have one. So I'm basically just going to slide to the left, and I'm going to say that I use this part. Now, this part has automatically been debited out of the depot inventory associated directly to this particular work order and this aircraft. So to the point that Tom made earlier, this is tracking that total cost of ownership and what the effort is to maintain this aircraft and to keep it running over the lifetime of the aircraft. So I've done about as much damage as I need to do from a parts perspective. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my work order. I could look at knowledge content articles if there were things that were specific to this particular problem that I wanted to be able to look at. I got the ability to bubble those knowledge content articles up to my users. These can also be made available to your third-party contractors if you have contractors doing work on your behalf. And it's all permissions-based as to what data, what content can be viewed by whoever the user is that's using this particular app. So now I've done all that. I've gone ahead and documented what I've done. I'm going to go ahead and close complete. Now I'm asking, again, configurable, for some additional notes or additional details. I don't type well, so replaced rotor blade. And then I have the ability here to create a follow-up task. So if I did a temporary repair and I need somebody to come back and do a permanent repair, all I'd have to do is hit this slider. It will clone this task, ask me for some comments, and it will go through the process again for the next step. But in this case, I pretty much did everything I need to do. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. It's now closed that work order. It's stopped the labor timer. It's created a PDF from a template to show what work has been done. I'm going to go ahead and find Julie and say, hey, here's a preview of everything that I did. Here's the part that I used. Here's the labor, the travel time and the labor. Obviously, it would only take 4 minutes to do this job in the field. The last thing I'm going to do is ask her to accept and confirm, which, much like when the UPS driver shows up, just hand her the device and she can sign on the screen. And again, this is completely configurable for your workflow. This is my out-of-box workflow of how this process is going to work. I can go back to my work queue and you'll notice that I have no more tasks. You'll also notice in the background that 2-hour job that was scheduled, or I think it was 1-hour job, is now a tiny little sliver of how much time it actually spent. So now I have a lot more time available throughout the rest of the day to do that, any additional work. Lisa Ray, my supervisor, could assign additional work to me at this point if she wanted to. The last thing that Teddy's going to do as he's walking out, he notices there's another problem with the aircraft, and he wants to be able to make sure that we're proactively dealing with this. So he's going to hit this little asset lookup magnifying glass. I forgot what we called it. And then he's going to basically scan the asset tag and then do a lookup. So this is a UPS that's associated to this particular piece of equipment. He has the ability to go in here, and as a former technician, what I want to know is, does anybody know about this, or am I the only one? So looking at the details, I want to click on this related list tab. And this tells me that there is no scheduled maintenance. There are no work orders, because there would have been another field that says upcoming work orders. I'm the only person who knows that this thing has a problem. So I can go back to the details tab and I can actually create a work order right from here. So the question now becomes, I was there to fix a rotor blade. This is another piece of equipment that I may not be certified on, or it may be a piece of equipment that I shouldn't be touching. What do you want to do with this job? Business rules allow you to say, should Teddy create the job, do the work right now? Should Teddy create the job, hand it back, let automation assign it to the right person? Or should it come back as an exception and then let the service supervisor assign it? Completely flexible in the way that you do those workflows. And again, we don't purport to know exactly how you do business, but we've made it flexible enough that you have that ability. And the last thing I want to show you before I hand it back to Tom is the ability to, or as I like to say, every kid's a straight A student till report cards show up, the ability to get data out of the system to be able to monitor the health of your overall process. The dispatcher workspace or service supervisor view is a real-time view into reality. Dashboards and reporting can now be used for long-term strategy. Are we tracking on the right track? Are we headed toward our North Star? And some of the capabilities that are built into the system, and you'll see there's a whole bunch of additional fields, but things like plan versus actual. How much time did we plan to work on these tasks? 79 hours. How much did we actually spend? 59 hours. Being able to use something like our AI and ML to dig deeper into that and bubble up and say, hey, the work order template that you're using specifies 2 hours for this particular task. Everyone's getting it done in 48 minutes. You might want to reconsider and adjust the time down to, let's not go crazy. Let's move it from 2 hours to an hour and a half, and then track it for the next period of time to see how that's working. So the ability to track all of this data, it's in the system and it's part of the out-of-box capabilities. So it does give you that flexibility to be able to see how are we doing. As Tom showed you a dashboard for your assets, this is the dashboard of how the service piece of the business is working. So at that point, I will hand it back to Tom.
All right, go ahead and end sharing.
There we go.
All right, fantastic. So as a part of those assets, I'm now showing a list. You can see within our estate, the enterprise asset workspace and solution can be used to track all sorts of things. We took an example of a helicopter today that's in the transportation area, right? There's a variety of categories of items inside of here that you could use for fleet management or other things, wearables for uniforms, tactical equipment, any sort of retail presence, medical, industrial facilities, constructions, anything. So this is extremely capable as you kind of expand the scope of what you might want to take a look at. Right now, on any given one of these, though, if you've decided to retire an asset, you could come to the area here for inventory and then start to look at maybe some of these disposal orders that you might need to create, right? So as a part of swapping something out, this would get created automatically, but you can also create them by hand where you would create a disposal order where you're pick where you're going to start from, who's going to do it, pick out some of the details around what time and date you need, and then who the contact is going to be. I'm going to make Chris pick it up, right? And then any of those details that are there, and you can save that. Next, you get to choose the assets that you want to dispose of. So you can come in here and start to work on any of those rotors, right? So I can start to search here and look for example, anything that is the model with the rotor in it, right? So I can look for the model where the model, is, and then we'll just look for the, right? And so what you'll be able to say, what you'll be able to find, and then run this, right? To find your rotor, add that to your disposal order. Sorry, I mistyped it again, right? And then create that order so that you can work through and it will then create a series of enterprise disposal tasks for you to verify those assets, right? Include the ones that are planned, right? And this is what it wants me to start with, which is essentially choose the asset tags that you want to dispose of, right? And then start those orders, right? And then as those are taking out of service and the status on those is automatically changed, if you kind of return to the estate here, you'll be able to see every asset has a state and a stub state where we're keeping track of, is it in stock? Is it available? Is it in use, right? These are available, right, at the top here to kind of look at. And you can see these various statuses as it moves from on order to in stock and transit and so on, right? And there's logical substates that are associated with these, right? So eventually it'll move to be retired, right? And then at that point, right, that that will take it out of service. Now, what we wanted to do was essentially take one of the rotor blades and take that out of service, right? And as a part of doing that, we want to be able to make sure that we always have enough stock for those, right? As we've consumed those. So as a part of essentially managing that, want to showcase the ability to take a look at the stock rules. So within the inventory area where we have a stockroom centric view, there's a place to establish all the places that you're going to maintain stock, right? There's various kinds of stock rooms that you can establish, right? So that you can flow down from higher class central warehouses all the way down to the closet on the 3rd floor of this building, right? And you can do that for things. And then eventually establish rules that allow you to move things around. So I've established a rule here, right? That was essentially what this does is this opens up anytime the main rotor stock falls below 1, we want to order 2 more from the vendor, right? This will automatically create requests for items that will include as many of these that are needed. Those farm out and are utilized as a part of the request process that a lot of people manage in ServiceNow via an integration to their ERP system. So very commonly that'll be SAP or Coupa or something of that ilk, right? Those are, and we have a low code way to do that integration so that we can customize or configure it to all the kind of intricacies of your particular agency or organization, right? Because those are all done a little bit differently, just depending on how that is, just kind of based on my experience with the field. So at that point, we've completed the entire cycle, right? We've brought it to bear so that we could dispose of our parts, replenish the inventory during stock rules, and then push those automatic orders out to replenish our stock, and then use our mobile app similar to how Brian showed to receive that inventory at a given stock room or at a given warehousing location when that shows up via whatever transit service we have, right? So we have the kind of the whole life cycle here on replacing and doing stuff to manage this so that when all the balls are in the air at the same time, nothing gets lost and everything can be done in a really linear task-based fashion, which is kind of our ServiceNow secret sauce. All right. So I want to thank you for your attention on the demonstration. I want to throw it back to Freddie there for him to kind of wrap us up. You're on mute, Freddie.
Sorry about that. It happens at least once a day, huh? But anyway, that was the end-to-end lifecycle management as far as enterprise assets and the maintenance of those assets are maintained as we view it in the public sector, and the value that ServiceNow and our product offerings, and more importantly, the platform can bring to your organization. We got complex, we got simplified, but again, don't overcomplicate it. It is all about getting the right person with the right tools and assets, with the right data and information to be able to complete work the first time that it is requested. Here's our slides here to be able to contact us. Please reach out. As much as we love doing these webinars behind computer screens, I know Chris, I can speak for the team here. I would love to be in person. I'd love to meet each and every one of you. And if you have any questions, requirements, if you feel comfortable, please, this is your opportunity now while we are still live to be able to pose those. We do have one that we're going to get to. But if you have anything to do as far as follow-up, please reach out. And we would love to have a conversation about your requirements or anything that your organization is facing. So as far as the question from, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this. I don't know if it is a username, but Srimanthan. Any OCI or OCR and signature capture and discovery services components used from third party, or is it a part of the ServiceNow offering? What Brian showed is a part of the ServiceNow offering. We do have authenticating signatures to be able to have approvals or verifying requests or anything like that. But if you do have a third-party application in place, like DocuSign, we have integration that we can build in. So it's yes to both. So hopefully that was able to answer your question.
We had another question earlier. It was regarding what version of the ServiceNow instances we're using. And just for note, today we were using those Utah instances, the Utah release.
Right. Any more out there?
Yeah, there's, I'll keep going as some of them are coming in. Let's see here. The question was, is the enterprise asset management module used in the demo out of the box from ServiceNow, or is it been customized today, developed, custom developed modules with ServiceNow platform as a service ecosystem? Tom answered, this is completely out of the box. The helicopter assets were just data that was added just to support this webinar, but everything else you saw was completely out of the box.
And that is the same for the FSM portion as well. So we will, looks like maybe one more came in here. Can we have automation help ensure that all associated tasks in the process get attention? Yes, when you were looking at that maintenance schedule from the dispatcher workplace that Brian was displaying, right? That is ideally just the exception-based requests that are coming in. We want to automate based on the rules that you put in to be able to assign the right person with the right skills and tools necessary, also from a geographic perspective and their location to be able to complete the work. So we do have a plugin with Google Maps that tracks it in almost an Uber-esque experience. And the rules that you write into the system when you do configure it are able to route people automatically. Now, the things that are kicking up might be a higher base task. Let's say maybe there's one person who on base can actually replace the rotor blades. Let's say there's one person that can maintain the engine. That's going to pop up to make sure that their schedule is available and they have the skills necessary. And you can track even the certifications that they have to be able to carry out those tasks and execute it ideally the first time that they're requested. So it is automated, but it is based on the rules that you write into the system. And ideally, we want to get as much out of that requester or facilities manager's workload to be able to enable the mission better and operate more effectively and efficiently.
And I'll add to that, Freddie, is that a lot of this stuff, these rules are things you as a users, like, right, or the managers of the users can do, right? This allows you to evolve yourself. You're just like, okay, we've set up our stock rules so that we have stuff flowing down. Oh, but we keep running out of this one. Let's change the threshold, right? None of that. You can add new rules, change thresholds, change maintenance windows. All of that is set up in a way that you have power over it, and it doesn't require quote code changes or even configuration changes. That's just data, right? That's all just stuff because we have the flexibility to manage all kinds of things, right? If you need to add a field to keep track of something specialty, right? That is a 5-minute configuration, very easy to do, right? If you need to adjust the security of who can see that extra field, that is a fully supported kind of in the middle of the fairway configuration as well. All the kind of platform stuff is there as a part of being a part of the like ServiceNow family and all of the robust features that we kind of have as a baseline at the platform layer that we're utilizing and building on top of that so that we can deliver innovation more quickly. And then you can do the same to make it fit exactly to your purposes, right? So these assets, you'll create your own models for what you deal with. If you have specialty classes of items, you can create those so that you have special fields around what you need to track, right? No matter what that is, right? So we have a lot of stuff out there kind of as a starter point, right? But that is just there to get you started. You have even more that you can do if you want to dig deeper in any given thing, and you can do it quickly, which is great.
Yes, and in the resources category, as far as your workforce, it's real time, and can't get any quicker. Looks like we got one more. Chris, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Are we? So it's a Navy question. I appreciate that, Mike. It says, are we looking at any opportunity to plug this into any Navy's online operational maintenance activity? Nalcomus, excuse me. Long story short, I would love that opportunity. I think it's a fantastic opportunity with using our integration hub and fully ATO'd ServiceNow platform. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. I'd love to have that conversation with you. maybe we take that offline, but yes, I think that's a great opportunity to do so. And that is all the questions we have. Unless anybody else has any others, we can leave it open for a minute or two more. Oh, there is, nope, that's it. If there are no other questions, Heather, is there anything you would like to say finally?
Thanks, Chris. I'd like to thank all of our participants as well as our speakers for being with us today. We hope the information you received during this webinar has been helpful.